Hey everybody, I'm Christopher Green. You're watching AMTV Alternative Media Television. I have a breaking report on the Fukushima radioactive nuclear disaster, which I believe is probably the worst nuclear disaster we have had in history.
And is leaking actively radiation into the Pacific Ocean, contaminating our coastline, contaminating our ecosystem, contaminating our fish and our food supply. And you're only getting, I would suspect, 0.5% of the truth.
And if Alternative Media TV is where you're getting your information, he's probably right.
Please help us investigate this. Get this out everywhere. Make this video viral. You can take a look at some of the amazing images yourself, some of the Fukushima radiation maps. I'll provide all the links below. Here we have a nuclear fallout map showing the trajectory of the radiation approaching the West Coast, parts of California, etc. Again, you know half the truth, America.
Oh boy, where to start? Firstly, I like that map of Fukushima. You know, the one which is a key titled Wave Height in Centimeters. Because it's got nothing to do with the radiation at Fukushima. That's the wave height of the 2011 tsunami. But I've got to admit, your second chart is truly terrifying, where the entire western half of the United States was subjected to 750 rads. That's 7.5 grays of radiation. Just so you know, that area of the west coast on that map there has a population of about 80 million people. Of 7.5 grays would kill approximately 90% of them. Yeah, I remember that, when the entire west coast of the United States was annihilated 10 days after the Fukushima meltdown, with a death toll of about 70 million. Oh, hang on, no, wait, sorry, no, I don't remember that, because it didn't happen. Because this map is for when
you're only getting, I would suspect, 0.5% of the truth.
But if you think alternative media is done yet, not even slightly.
Fukushima radiation found in California kelp. The San Francisco Gate. Kelp off California was contaminated with short-lived radioisotopes a month after Japan's Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant accident, a sign that the spilled radiation reached the state's coastline, according to a new scientific study. Scientists from CSU Long Beach tested giant kelp collected off Orange County, Santa Cruz, and other locations after the March 2011 accident and detected radioactive iodine, which was released from the damaged nuclear reactor.
Which really isn't that surprising. You see, the vast majority of the radiation from this reactor stayed in the reactor for the kind of obvious reason that the reactor is a big hunk of solid stuff, and that doesn't fly across the Pacific too well. Well, a small amount of it did get airborne in fires and the such like, and some of it got airborne enough to get into the jet stream where it would settle out a long way from home. And when the iodine settled into the sea, it's entirely expected that it would get sucked up by the seaweed, because that's the sort of thing that seaweed does. Indeed, would anyone like to hazard a guess as to where the element iodine was first discovered? Yep, you guessed it. It was first discovered in seaweed. So if you want to look for radioactive iodine, seaweed's kind of the place to look. But let's flick back to that short-lived isotope thing. You see, iodine-131 has a half-life of about 8 days. Which means that in about 8 days, half of your iodine will have decayed, and in about 16 you'll only have a quarter left. In 24 days, you'll only have 1/8 left, and so on, till after about 2 years. Even if everything that was emitted from Fukushima found its way into the Californian kelp, not even one single radioactive nucleus of iodine-131 would be left by now. And seeing as iodine-131 has such a short half-life, and it's typically only created in nuclear reactors, the background level of this isotope is effectively 0.
The largest concentration was about 250 times higher than levels found in kelp before the accident.
Oh wow, 250 times 0. That must be a colossal number. Yeah, I can see why the entire Californian coast turned into a death zone. Oh, wait, sorry, you were ranting about how something being 250 times an almost insignificant background amount over 2 years ago is really important, and how it's still somehow contaminated, even though every single radioactive nucleus of iodine will have decayed by now.
It's already reached the Pacific coast. I know many of you already know that. It's already being found in Kelp, 250 times higher than normal levels. It's already reached California, is the takeaway.
Now, the take-home message is you don't have even the slightest clue about what you're talking about. And believe me, it doesn't get any better for the rest, where they talk about a late season of anchovies in Monterey Bay, and therefore conclude, it's got to be Fukushima.
And now we have strange, uncanny, and I would suggest related events, unprecedented events happening on the California coastline, where millions of anchovies are now on the coastline of places like Monterey, California, in this crazy biblical environment where it's almost like Noah's Ark.
Yeah, a late season of anchovies, therefore Fukushima. Because there is nothing else that could have possibly caused this, like, say, for instance, the last decade being one of the hottest in recorded history. Now, let's not bother with measuring what the radioactive ions in the water are or in what quantities they're present, things that can be done with stunning accuracy. Nah, we're alternative media. Let's just blame Fukushima. Forest fire? Fukushima. Someone gets a back pain? Fukushima. Someone gains weight? Fukushima. Someone loses a sock in the dryer? Fukushima. The only thing left is for you to wonder, why isn't the mainstream media reporting this? Well, maybe it's because they're not idiots. Maybe it's because they actually investigate their stories. Maybe it's because they can tell the difference between wave height and radiation levels. Maybe it's because they can tell the difference between what happened and what didn't. Which really does mean that the only thing left for alternative media TV to do is to decide exactly what percent of the truth they need to know to blame everything on Fukushima.
Again, you know half the truth, America, and you're only getting, I would suspect, 0.5% of the truth. And so we only know probably 1% of the real truth here. And that is what should be most shocking and most alarming.